It's not who gets in the first word that counts, but who gets in the last word. Now, the guys that always get in the last word, brothers Tom and Dave.
Hi, this is Tom Laz.
And this is little brother Dave Laz.
And this is our tonight. This is actually our maiden show of The Laz Word.
Our premiere edition.
That would be
our
first
foray,
edition.
Our first edition. Our foray into the unknown. Our continued voyage to the future.
I wouldn't call it a voyage.
Wouldn't call it a voyage? Why wouldn't you call it a voyage? Would you call it a voyage?
No.
What would you call it?
No, we don't want to go there. We don't want to go. Ladies and gentlemen, as we did say, my name is Tom Laz, and this is my brother Dave, and we have spent a few years with a show called Politics, the Law, and You. On it was Politics,
the Law,
and You. That was on a different radio station. And we have now had the great opportunity to join the WIND family. And they are really great people. I'd like to have you all in radio and all part of the family, but then we wouldn't have a spot on the radio. So I'm sorry.
Are we brothers and sisters or second cousins or third cousins? I don't know what part of the family we are.
We got brethren and southern.
Oh, okay. We're going to just go from, but we're just to the Bible part where you just said brothers and sisters.
That's right.
Okay, that's cool.
But I think in fairness, our listeners should know a little bit about us.
As little as possible, or else they might go away.
Well, I've been a licensed attorney since 1975. You were licensed in 1982.
Yeah, that makes me the little brother.
That's why you're the little brother. And I have 5 children, 3 of whom are on the government payroll for the U.S. Army. One is a tanks, armor.
You're welcome.
An armor captain.
You're welcome.
Thanks, you're welcome. Good. The other is a signal, so she'd fit right in at the radio station if I could talk to Paula about it. And the other one is a engineer. He knows how to build things up and blow things up. And then, of course, there's my oldest and my youngest. And you have 2.
I have 2.
And they're both, considering your little brother, they're still both in school.
Yeah, it's not 2.2, just 2.
So what we want to do is, you might have heard some of the promos, we want to have a little chat about things that go on, politics, have some guests, comment on life. And our old show was Politics, the Law, and You. And we'd like to have you being involved in this. So if you like what you hear, give us an email at thelazword, L-A-Z, thelazword at yahoo.com, and tell us you like this, you don't like this, you'd like to hear that, you don't want to hear that, dump this, whatever, because we want you to enjoy our show. We don't want you to be able to invite us into your house.
Your car.
No, just your house.
Why not the car? People got cell phones. People got Blackberries right now. They can tell you. They can go onto Yahoo. They can go right onto the email. They can send something right from the car. Of course, pull over, please.
That's why he's the younger brother.
And just remember, speaking of being pulled over, you have to buckle up now in the back seat, right?
That's right.
January 1st?
You're right. That's one of those new laws that came in. You see, the legislators in their wisdom.
And the governor in his.
Have determined that you're not capable of taking care of your own physical self. Drivers have to buckle up. Front seat passengers have to buckle up. And rear seat passengers now have to buckle up. And a policeman who sees a rear seat passenger not buckled in could put the lights on and pull over your car and issue somebody a ticket because they're not belted. Now, my problem with this is I've been stopped for not wearing a seatbelt because I'm an old guy and I don't really think that it's up to them to intrude. And
you always made a good point, Tom, about all the other things that they don't monitor us and stop us from doing.
That's what I'm saying. You're concerned about my health and my safety in driving a car. Do you care whether I get cirrhosis of the liver, legislators of the state of Illinois?
No, but they do a good job of taxing all that booze, so they get the money from it.
So long as they get their liquor tax and so long as they get their sales tax, they don't care. Do you care if I get lung cancer from cigarettes? No.
But you sure get the tax revenue from it.
So long as you get your sales tax and your cigarette tax and all the other taxes that are put in. So please, legislators, don't tell me you're concerned about my health and that's why I have to buckle in. You're not.
Well, I'm glad to say that my representative, Mike Connolly, voted against it. But I guess Governor Quinn and those who know better, we can't take care of ourselves, Tom. The government has to do it for us. Speaking of Big Brother, yeah, it's Big Brother looking out. Brother looking out for us. How dare they?
Well, that's one of the great things that we have about starting this show in 2012, because 2012 is an election year, and we have people in Washington who seem to think that they just know everything for us, what's better for us. It's amazing the country got to the point that it has without having the government take care of you from cradle to grave.
That's right. Where were they before the New Deal? And this country seemed to build itself up pretty darn well from the Revolution on, until we got to the nanny state, or the quasi nanny state.
You're going to be getting to with this Obamacare, which, well, depending on how things go in November of this year, we could repeal Obamacare and not have to worry about it, because Obama and the Democrats were out there listening to the people. They were out there listening to the people yelling, no, we don't want it, as they cast their votes, aye. And one of the things that really frosted me, and I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that frosted me about the whole vote on Obamacare was that former Speaker Pelosi would not allow to go with a roll call vote. They were going with the electronic vote, and I remember specifically watching it. So you could see how people could vote yes, and once they found out that there were enough votes to safely pass the bill, they could change their vote to no, and then go report back to their constituencies that said, I voted no for Obamacare. It's not my fault it passed. But the fact of the matter is, they didn't have the guts to stand up on the record and say, I vote aye or I vote nay.
That reminds me, going back to government tricks, Tom, we have the issue of of zero-based budgeting, which means that when the government talks about cutting the budget, at least this is the way that it used to be. I would like to think that people have become smart enough to notice this, but suppose that the budget for Department of Energy is $20 billion this year, and it's projected. The projected cost for the following fiscal year is $25 billion. And then they come in and they do an amendment to lower it down to $22 billion. Now, that in government parlance is going out and saying, we cut the budget by $3 billion for the Department of Energy. When in actuality, the budget's increasing from $20 billion to $22 billion.
You know what that reminds me of? We have an aunt, ladies and gentlemen, who is 93. Auntie Helen's 93.
And she's 93.
And she's like the Energizer Bunny, honest to gosh. She's going to probably be there to bury my grandson. But she doesn't see doctors. She just takes a licking and keeps on ticking, as John Cannon
No doctors,
would say.
No doctors, no medicine, no nothing.
But she retired from Sears years and years ago and was bemoaning all the money she lost in the Sears profit-sharing plan. And
understandable.
You were trying to explain to her that if you bought the shares for 60 or 20 and you sold them for 80, you have a gain of 60. And she would just say, no, that's not true. I lost money. How could you lose money? I could have had the shares at 100. But instead of having 100, I had to sell it at 80. So I lost $20 a share.
Well, that's still like going out. That's like going out and buying something, Tom. When you're at a sale, you go out and you can say, I'll go and buy this with 30% off. Well, guess what? You could have saved the other 70% if you didn't buy it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. So that's when you look at that, and we are just we're conservative people, and we just believe that the government should have to operate the way we all have to operate. When you get your paycheck, you find out how much you have. You look at how many things are necessary to be paid, and you look at how much you have left over. If you have nothing left over, you don't go out to dinner. You don't do the things you want just because you want.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. We can't print money up.
Mm-hmm. And the government looks at it the other way, says, this is what we want, and we'll get the money to get it. Not all government. There are a lot of people who believe in living within their means. And
you mean like Wisconsin?
That's what we want the government to do.
Well, we'll be back after this first break with a little bit more about government and the law and you.
Didn't get enough of your family for the holidays? Here's two brothers you can always count on for the last word. Tom and Dave.
Before our break, we were talking about the government trying to be like regular people and having to live within their means.
Well, let's talk about different types of regular people, Tom. The type that say that when government comes in, government has the right to take from you to give to them.
Well, I was going to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the Occupy Wall Street people, or Occupy foreclosed homes, or Occupy whichever. And maybe one of our listeners could give us an email at thelazword@yahoo.com and answer this question for me. If you are the CEO of a small company, you provide jobs for 200 people, let's say.
Okay.
And their families, and let's say you make $10 million a year. You're one of these bad people. And
shame on you.
Shame on you for making that. And we need to...
And not sharing it.
Yeah. And we need to take you down a peg or two. But why is it I never see people outside Yankee Stadium? I never see people outside of Wrigley Field, Soldier Field.
How about the movie theaters?
The Cell.
How about movie theaters? Where they make
you're right. Because somebody gets, A-Rod gets $25 million for 6 months work. Actually 6 months play. And if any of you, no, all kidding aside, it is work. We all look at it on the outside as play, but none of us go to work at a place where we know that in June there's going to be a whole group of college graduates and somebody is going to be looking at saying why they should get rid of you and take the new June graduate. So when the Bears finished their season, and you could look around the locker room, that's the last time that group is going to be in that same locker room again. Some people are going to retire, some people get cut, some people get traded, some are going to be draftees. But the fact of the matter is, why is it millionaire sports people? Why is it millionaire
Hollywood celebrities?
Celebrities. They never seem to be the brunt of Occupy. I don't see anybody saying, let's occupy Charlie Sheen's house.
No,
he makes too much money. Let's occupy Oprah's condo downtown. She makes too much money.
Oh, she's got to be worth over $1 billion. I think her net worth. I think she's up over $1 billion.
So if somebody can explain it to us, give us an email at thelazword@yahoo.com and say, this is why these people can make that amount of money and they're good, but other people who make that same amount of money or less are bad. I'd like to know.
Yeah, but why not? Why does it have to just be limited to money? I mean, where does the right come from that you get the right to get my money? Where does that right come from, or where does that concept come from? Like we were talking about one time, Tom, I think we previously brought up in our past radio life about the experiment that was done in class where a teacher decided to say that everybody who's gotten A's, we're going to take from you and we're going to give your grades and lower it down to a B so we can take a grade off.
No. There's a couple of versions of that.
Okay.
One has to do with the father of a young girl who was in her first semester in college. And it's the end of the first semester at college, and she comes home for Christmas break, and he says, so how was it, sweetie? And she said, oh, everything was fine. It was a little tough. I had to really work. But I think I'm getting a 4.0 this semester. And her dad said, that's great. He says, what about Julie? She says, well, Dad, you know Julie. Julie is party hardy. Everybody on campus knows Julie. And she's going to be lucky not to be on academic pro. She parties hardy and has to sleep in and miss classes and all that. And her dad says, I've got an idea. If you're really concerned about Julie, then why don't you go see the dean and tell the dean you want to take some of your quality and grade points from you and give them to Julie. And she says, Daddy, I busted my butt to earn those grades. And her dad just smiled at her and says, sweetheart, welcome to the Republican Party.
Speaking of, Tom, let's go ahead. Let's do some full disclosure over here, Tom. You and I are both Republican committeemen in DuPage County. So we don't want to make any bones about where we stand politically. That's where we are. We're official members of the DuPage County Republican Party.
But on the conservative side.
On the conservative side, absolutely.
So that if you try to tell me you're a Republican, but you want to give away my money to somebody else.
That ain't going to happen.
Thanks, but no thanks. And the other was the professor who did the experiment, and after the first test, there were certain people got A's, some got B's, some got C's, some got D's, some flunked. So he says, what we'll do is we're going to put this on a curve, and we're going to just redistribute all the grade points so that everybody works out well. Well, the second time, the people who really studied hard, they didn't study quite as hard. The people who didn't study at all continued not to study at all. And then you had varying degrees of the people in the middle. And
what happened? Go on.
They all got the same grades. And then the third time, nobody worked.
Gee, what do you mean?
And they all flunked.
What a selfish bunch of SOBs.
You can't say that on the radio. Shame on you. You just wind up with saying, why should I go out and work hard so that somebody can take it to give it to somebody else who hasn't? They don't have any effort. And that's really what these elections are going to be about.
Tom, you have no compassion.
That's fine. When I have to work to earn what I earn, that's mine. And I don't need the government to take its hand in and say, you need to give it to somebody else who just sat around and did nothing. And that's what all these elections are going to be about. These primaries, when you have primaries, we'll have primaries in Illinois. We're going to be having some guests.
March 20th.
Between
for those
now
of you
and
who want
then,
to know what this March 20th will be the Illinois primary.
Talk about people running for office on various levels and what they have to say about themselves so that you can have an idea. But it's about you and really about how you want this country to be. Do you want the country to be how it started out, where what you made, what you worked for was yours? Or are we talking about trying to be the new socialist Europe, where no matter what you do, somebody knows better about how to take what you earned and give it to somebody else?
Yeah, what's funny about it, Tom, is that the old socialist Europe is kind of becoming the new capitalist America. Is slowly moving in that direction, and they've kind of learned their lesson in terms of the need for austerity and the need that you just can't keep spending forever past your particular financial point of view. Can't go past it.
Well, some people, specifically the ones at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, don't seem to understand that.
Well, that's because you got a printing press.
I guess
you can print that money. Just get that money and throw it out there, Tom. Just give it out.
Well, you wanted to mention something about Iran, and you go talk about Iran.
Speaking of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, this is something we'll bring up in our next segment, considering the fact that we're also talking about the Iowa caucuses and how certain things should be handled. I was just going to say that we're going to have the foreign policy segment of our show coming up, and we'll finish up with this. And after the next break, we'll talk about how should we handle Iran. Because let me tell you what I was doing, Tom. Every now and then I watch what I term the Hitler Channel, because the History Channel seems to have so much about World War II. And just watching in particular,
The History Channel or the Military Channel?
both of them. Well, I think they're all in the same, but there's a lot about World War II. And in particular, just watching all that buildup, just watching Germany in World War II and the buildup, and nobody was doing anything for all those years as Germany ignored its treaties and decided to abrogate and then start building up its Air Force and building up its Navy and building up its Army. And nobody wanted to step in and put their foot down and say, you can't do that. Well, I'm wondering about what our dear president at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, I haven't heard anything from him about his plan dealing with what Iran is doing and what brazenly Iran is just ignoring everything that we have tried to do to restrain them. And is that like another Germany? Are we going to let this be another Germany where suddenly somebody's going to get the power that they shouldn't have? That's my question. Because a lot of the Republican candidates are saying somebody should step in and do something about that now.
Well,
So
you're not going to have it. The guy at 1600 doesn't have. He just doesn't have it. We'll talk about that right after our break.
that's right, here on 560 AM, The Last Word.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the last word, Tom and Dave.
Who stopped the fire? Thanks for
We
staying
didn't
with
stop
us.
it.
So we hope that those of you who are awake at this hour are really going to be awake by choice for the rest of the time that we're always on.
And we think
WIND.
that if there's anybody sleeping out there, you should wake them up.
Yeah, wake them up and
get them
tell
get
them,
them over to the radio and tell them that Tom and Dave are on.
You wanted to talk about Iran. You were talking about, I think Iran was telling us we ought to watch out
Mind
what
our
our
own
Navy
business.
does and things like that.
You know, there's the potential threat that they are making now to the interrupting trades in the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm just comparing what's happening and what has been happening in particular with our great United Nations and resolution after resolution after resolution.
For those of you listening out there, you couldn't see the bulge of the tongue in his cheek when he said "great United Nations."
Actually, the United Nations grates upon me. Is more what it is. I mean, strictly, really, Tom, with the exception of Korea, when the heck did the United Nations ever truly enforce any of the resolutions? You know, you were part of it, and we're gonna take you back in the Wayback Machine over here a little bit. My brother and I were in college, part of what was called the Model UN program, and we're both graduates of Benedictine University. So we went to New York, and we got to play United Nations for a week. And we represented a particular country. We were assigned a different country each year. For the 2 years I did it, 1 year we were Sudan, and then we were Syria. And it's rather interesting how you have to craft these meaningless resolutions. You condemning this and hoping for that. And it is just such a meaningless organization. I seriously say, with the exception of actually going back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, where the only thing the UN did was provide a world forum so that we could show how the Soviets were lying about putting nukes in Cuba, I'm still wondering, in terms of stopping world conflict, has the United Nations done anything ever? How many of those resolutions about Iraq were ever followed through? How many resolutions about Iran were followed through? So what I'm talking about over here is, do I think particularly that at some point in time, if they are not stopped now, that we are looking at a nuclear event? Yes, I do. I think that a nuclear event is possible. Now, I'm not saying that the Iran has the capability of nuking the U.S., but certainly there's been enough ranting and raving about going after Israel and destroying Israel, and that's my whole point. When Hitler came on, he made no qualms about what he wanted and what he intended to do, and he did his darnest to try to follow through on it. So why shouldn't we believe that when the people, the leaders of Iran, and I'm not necessarily, of course, putting this on the people, But the leaders of Iran, if they're going to go ahead and they're going to say, this is our policy, we want to destroy the state of Israel, we want to create an Islamic world, we want to create at least an Islamic area in the Middle East, why not believe them? And why not act accordingly to stop it now?
Because you have a head of our country who wants to have peace in our time.
At any price?
No, peace in our time. Peace in our time.
Oh, he's going to come back from Iran waving a little paper maybe sometime, holding it up.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, what we need is we need a president who doesn't bow to other world leaders.
Like it did to Saudi Arabia.
You don't go kissing rings and asking for blessings and everything. You're the president of the gosh darn United States. You don't have to take a back seat to anybody. And if it sounds arrogant, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That's how I feel about our country. If there's a story about a guy who was coming through the security checkpoint at Orly Airport, and the security guards there wanted to see his passport, and he couldn't find it, so they were going to be giving him a hard time about letting him in France. And he says, I'm sorry if I get emotional about this. These things get me emotional. He says, the last time I came to France, he says, I came in from the water, and nobody asked me for a passport. There were shells falling all around me. So I came in without a passport then, and if it wasn't for me coming in without a passport, you wouldn't be asking me for one right now. So,
really? I'll be darned. You mean that day on June 6th on Omaha Beach, they didn't require passports back then?
That's the one. That's the one. And one of these days, I've got a fellow I met in Naperville the other day. He's a Greatest Generation man. We're going to see what we can do about having him as a guest to talk about the Greatest Generation.
Yeah, they were, considering what they went through, and we got a lot of lessons that we can learn from the Greatest Generation. Absolutely, Tom.
And if you know of anybody who is a great generation and would, you think, make a good guest, give us a holler. The last word at yahoo.com. I know so-and-so, and we can contact you and see what we can do about it.
Especially if they went through any of the Korean conflict or even the Vietnam conflict, it would be very interesting. So, we had that one group on at the VFW hall. We did the remote, and it was very interesting. It was a very interesting time, and give that some thought if you have somebody out there like that. And we're going to take another break here over here, and we're going to be back with Tom, the last word.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the last word, Tom and Dave.
That's right. This is little brother Dave and older brother Tom. Maybe not wiser, but older.
Oh, it's the sadder but wiser girl for me, as Meredith Wilson's Music Man said.
Yeah, but only the Robert Preston version I like. I don't like the Broderick version. I like the Preston version.
Or as the old poem goes, Pabst girl fair with a blue ribbon in her hair went up to, and I can't forget the part. This is very sad. I'm sorry.
Alzheimer's moment?
I guess. But she, the bottom part is she went home pale Budweiser.
Oh, before we move on to a question of a little bit of local politics over here. What?
She stood next to a bush of Anheuser.
Oh, that's okay. As I said, the best type of client for a lawyer is a client with Alzheimer's disease, because every time they come into the office, you can ask them and tell them, you never paid my retainer.
No, he could he could show you a canceled check. And,
if he remembers to bring it to the office.
Well, yeah, we kid about that, but in all seriousness, or as they say seriously, though, folks, my father-in-law has Alzheimer's. And it's
not pretty.
It's not pretty, and my heart goes out to everyone out there who has someone with Alzheimer's, to watch someone who was a robust individual who now doesn't know they're there, what's going on, or anything like that.
Oh, for a little bit. For a little
and
bit.
For those of you who care for them and love them just as much as you did, God bless you.
For a little bit of the more prophetic, you have the gift of prophecy, I think, because you were telling me about the gentleman that's standing in front of the White House in February of 2013.
That's right. We forgot about him. There was it was February 1st, 2013. And this little old guy comes up to the White House and he says to the Marine Guard, "I'd like a meeting with President Obama." And the Marine Guard looks at him and says, "Sir, I'm sorry, he's not the president anymore. He doesn't live here." Okay. Turns around and leaves. Next day, same time, comes up the same Marine Guard. "I want to see President Obama." "Sir, he's not president anymore. He doesn't live here anymore." Third day, same time, same Marine, same colloquy. "I want to see the president." He says, "Sir," he's getting a little upset. He says, I'm telling you, he is not the president any longer. He doesn't live here. I told you that today. Told you that yesterday. I told you that the day before. Do you understand it? And he says, "Yes, I understand it. I just like to keep hearing it." So the Marine just smiled a little bit and says, "See you same time tomorrow, sir?" He says, "Yes, I will." Well, so you know where I stand and whose lever I'm pulling in November. It's the I'm pulling the blood bank lever.
No, the one that gives blood or takes blood.
No. It's
the red liver. Yes.
It's the ABO version. Anybody but Obama.
Oh, and let's warn for those of you out there who happen to believe that the world's going to end on December 21st, 2012. Let us give you some fair warning. If you are ever within earshot of a Secret Service agent or a federal agent, be careful when you're talking about Obama. If you believe, again, that the world's going to end on December 21st, 2012.
Because he won't live out his first term.
Yeah,
so if you start saying, "Hey, just don't cool it, ladies and gentlemen, Obama's not living out his first term. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, don't say something like that, even if you believe that the world's going to end on December 21st, 2012. Because, of course, Obama's first term would end on January 20th at noon on January 20th of 2013. So be careful. Be careful if you decide to go along with that.
But along that line, and going back to our Energizer Bunny aunt, she's big on these tabloids, the Inquirer and this one and that one and all. And as you pointed out, here we have the National Enquirer reporting that the world is going to end.
Oh, that's the Sun.
Or the Sun. That the world is going to end in 60 days from whatever date of that particular edition. And nestled in the middle of the paper
is the prescription.
is the subscription that you can get the Sun for a whole year for our special low price.
Yeah, I'm going to call him one time. Next time I see that in there, I'm going to ask him if I can just get a 60 or 30-day prescription. And I want to keep an eye out because I bought those papers for her for the last 2 years, and it's predicted in 2010 that the world's going to end on July 4th, and they predicted in 2011 that the world's going to end July 4th. So I'm going to wait and see, and we'll let you know, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to tell you whether the May or June edition is going to show that the Sun predicts that the world's going to end on July 4, 2012.
Or you could be like me caught in the middle, or actually it's my daughter who's caught in the middle. My daughter is married to a great guy. Jimmy is just a great guy. You couldn't ask for a better son-in-law, with the exception that he's a member of one of the operating engineers unions. I think it's 399, the one that makes all the buildings work. And his dad's union and his uncle's union and his grandfather's union and all of that. And I was talking about the fact that the world's going to end on December 1st, 2012, so that we don't have to worry about that. And his comment was, "Oh, that's probably because there would have been a Democrat or a Republican elected president."
Yeah. Okay, it was a good comment. It was a good dig. I'll give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
But you know what I wonder, and you can email this to us at thelastword@yahoo.com. Why is it that people who believe that the world's going to end on a particular date sell off everything they have? I mean, if it's going to end, what difference does it make if you own it or not? Unless the idea is to go out and splurge and have a really good time. Well, we'll be back after this break, and let's talk about Governor Quinn and the Democrats in the state legislature next time we come up on The Last Word.
lawyers, so you know they'll always have the last word. Here's Tom and Dave.
Welcome back, listening audience. I don't know where you went while we were here, but welcome back anyway.
And let's go. Well, so let's see. So far, we covered the national scene, we covered prophecy, and we covered the international scene. So let's bring ourselves down to the local scene, to the state scene over here.
And it's after Christmas, so we don't have to sing "Oh Come, Dear Rahm Emanuel."
Yeah, that got a little bit old last year when he was running for mayor of Chicago. But let's talk about what's going on with our dear state, our dear in debt, almost junk bond status state that. When we had a Republican governor, Governor Thompson, Governor Edgar had AAA bond ratings and kept the budget in balance, and those types of people, and what's happening with state government with the Democrats running it. I'd just like to ask any of our listeners out there to tell us at the last word at yahoo.com, what on earth do you people think of how the Democrats, Emperor Madigan, is running this state and how they have been running this state? And why this state seems to remain a blue state. We are running up. I think total unfunded assets is over nearly 140 billion. When we look at our own particular pension problem, we have a deficit that we continually have to cover. And for those of you who have gone out on the tollways after the new year over here, has anybody noticed, in particular we drive 355, that it's gone up for cars per toll from $1 to $1.90? Now, somehow I don't think that additional 90 cents is needed to suddenly keep those tollways, and particularly 355, and repair it. And 355 is in pretty good shape as far as I see it. And weren't the tollways actually always supposed to become freeways after the first bonds were paid off?
When the legislature is in session.
Yes, no man.
No one is safe.
So we
need maybe between now and next week we'll come up with something for the governor, like come on without, come on within. You ain't seen taxes like Governor Pat Quinn. When Quinn the tax man gets here, everybody's going to run from him,
or try to,
or words to that effect. But as you pointed out, well, there is some degree of increase in cost. I mean, it costs more for the gasoline to put the state vehicles out there to plow the snow. It costs more for the electricity and the heat for the buildings. So there is a degree, just like your bills go up and my bills go up.
$1.90. Okay, going from $1 per particular toll up to $1.90. Well, let's just simply talk about the fact that we are losing businesses here in Illinois. You know, the governor of Indiana has called us a dysfunctional state, that the governor of Indiana loves to have us next door to Illinois because they can come in and they can show what a wonderful economic climate is being created in Indiana. Now, why can Indiana create such a good climate? And they have Gary. No offense to you, Gary listeners, but
the question is, who's your neighbor?
Who's your neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who's your?
Yes.
That'll play on words? Who's your neighbor? That's right.
Very good. He picked up on it. See, that's why he's the little one. It takes him a little while.
Well, I learned from you, Tom. I learned how long it took you when I've observed you. It's just a matter of observing the older brother and how he handles these things.
Well, the older brother is looking at the clock on the wall.
I'm looking at the clock on the computer.
And we're getting to where we're wrapping this thing up for our first show.
That's right. I can't believe that the time has gone so quickly for our first show.
Well, what we want to do.
But we hope that you make sure that we have many more of these shows to go along.
And the way you want it and what interests you. So you email us, thelastword@yahoo.com. And in the meantime, God bless you. Thank you for listening. God bless the United States of America.
Amen.